Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Sports Corner. I'm Cole Young, and today is August 1st, meaning we're rapidly approaching football season and, in fact, had the first NFL preseason game of the year last night. Considering football season is technically about to begin, I figured it was time to do my annual NFL season preview. The NFL season will officially begin on NBC on Thursday, September 4th, when the Dallas Cowboys travel to Philadelphia to take on the reigning Super Bowl champion Eagles. There are a lot of question marks and points of intrigue surrounding the NFL this season, so with all that said, I'll give an extensive look at what happened this past offseason, what to look for coming up, and finish up with some of my personal predictions on how the 2025 season will shake out. Starting in the AFC West might be one of the most exciting divisions in the league. Coming off of a blowout Super Bowl loss, the Kansas City Chiefs will look to bounce back and continue their dynasty. Quarterback Patrick Mahomes has led the Chiefs to 3 straight Super Bowls and 5 in the last 6 years. They've won 3 rings in that span, on top of 7 straight AFC Championship appearances and every AFC West title since 2016. However, Mahomes is entering his 9th season, and future Hall of Fame tight end Travis Kelce was expected to retire this past offseason, but the 35-year-old decided to give it one more go. All this to say, the Chiefs have been the most dominant team of the past decade, but their window is beginning to close as their superstars age. As always, though, I still expect them to be competitive and eventually make the playoffs. A team on the complete opposite trajectory is the Denver Broncos. With a talented young roster, the Broncos exceeded all expectations last season, with rookie quarterback Bo Nix under center going 10-7 and earning a playoff spot for the first time since 2015. They would go on to lose in a big way to the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs, but it was still a glimpse at what is to come for this young team. Reigning Defensive Player of the Year Patrick Surtain and Pro Bowl wide receiver Courtland Sutton each signed extensions to stay in Denver, and the Broncos also brought in several big-name free agents like J.K. Dobbins, Evan Ingram, Talanoa Hufanga, and Dre Greenlaw. This could be the Broncos' best chance to win the AFC West for the first time since Peyton Manning did it with the Broncos back in 2015. Rounding out this conference are the Los Angeles Chargers and the Las Vegas Raiders. The Chargers and quarterback Justin Herbert again made the playoffs last season, where they ultimately collapsed and were eliminated by the Houston Texans. They drafted well and made some offseason additions, but their window of opportunity is also beginning to close. The Raiders completely started from scratch, bringing in an entire new coaching staff and remaking their offense. Head coach Pete Carroll came out of retirement to lead the Raiders and brought on offensive coordinator Chip Kelly, fresh off of his national championship victory at Ohio State. Their offense will be led by former Seahawks quarterback Geno Smith and record-breaking Heisman runner-up Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State. On top of that, tight end Brock Bowers is coming off of an incredible rookie season, and as per usual, Max Crosby will lead the defense. I don't expect either the Chargers or Raiders to make the playoffs this season, but they'll still be competitive and fun. As it always seems to be, the AFC North will be one of the toughest divisions. Led by 2-time MVP quarterback Lamar Jackson and All-Pro running back Derrick Henry, the Baltimore Ravens have been one of the top offenses year in and year out. Unfortunately, in the biggest moments, the Ravens seem to come up just short every year, falling shy of their Super Bowl aspirations. As they seem to do every year, they drafted insanely well, bolstering both their offense and defense, and I expect them to continue their dominance and make another deep playoff run this season. In their way of another AFC North division title stands the Cincinnati Bengals. Last season, the Bengals were an anomaly. Quarterback Joe Burrow led the league with a whopping 4,918 yards and 43 touchdowns while throwing just 9 interceptions. Receiver Jamar Chase led the league in all categories with 127 receptions, 1,708 yards, and 17 touchdowns. However, even with those video game-like numbers, the Bengals missed the playoffs. They got hot and won their final 5 games, but missed out on the playoffs due to the Steelers and Broncos taking the final spots. This season, even though there's been some front office turmoil, I still expect the Bengals to be a top-tier team with a top offense, and possibly make their return to the playoffs. Closing out the AFC North are the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns. The Steelers made some incredible offseason moves when they signed wide receiver DK Metcalf, corner Darius Slay, and gave edge rusher TJ Watt a record-breaking contract. However, they also signed quarterback Aaron Rodgers, who is coming off of the worst season of his career. As usual, though, I still expect the Steelers to have an incredible defense, leading them to about a 9-8 record, as they tend to do. The Browns, on the other hand, could potentially be the worst team in the league this season. At the time of this episode, the Browns have 4 potential starting quarterbacks on their roster: veterans Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett, and rookies Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel, not to mention Deshaun Watson, who is out for the entire season after complications from his Achilles surgery. Their bright spot will be Myles Garrett as always, but other than that, I don't expect too much from this team. The AFC South is a pretty straightforward one. CJ Stroud led the Houston Texans to 2 straight divisional round appearances, and I expect them to be winners of this division for the 3rd straight year. The rest of the division, however, is not very strong. The second best team in this division on paper should be the Jacksonville Jaguars. Quarterback Trevor Lawrence, wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr., and first-year head coach Liam Cohn should be a successful trio on the offensive side of the ball. If any other teams in this division have a playoff shot, it's the Jaguars, but with a lot of talent in the AFC, they have a long road ahead of them. At the bottom of the division will be the Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans. The Colts are always competitive, especially with offensive weapons like Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman Jr. However, their biggest question mark lies at quarterback. Anthony Richardson has been disappointing to this point, and I suspect this will be his make-or-break year. Waiting in the wings is former Giants quarterback Daniel Jones, who will most likely make an appearance at some point this season. The Titans drafted quarterback Cam Ward out of Miami, which was the best choice they could have made. While I expect Ward to have a great rookie season, the talent surrounding him is subpar at best. Look for the Titans to be towards the bottom of the league again this season. To close out the AFC, we have the AFC East. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills have dominated this division, winning the title every year since 2020. Allen is coming off of an MVP season, and year in and year out, the Bills are Super Bowl favorites, and I expect that to be the case again this year. However, similar to the Chiefs, their window might be beginning to close, so they'll need to capitalize very soon. A team that might be on the come-up is the New England Patriots. Once rookie quarterback Drake May took over the offense last season, the Patriots saw a bit of a spark. With the addition of head coach Mike Vrabel, wide receiver Stephon Diggs, and a talented defense returning, the Patriots could be a surprisingly good team this year. Bottoming out this division will most likely be the Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets. Miami head coach Mike McDaniel is beginning to be on the hot seat. Quarterback Tua Tagovailoa has struggled with health and turnovers. Wide receiver Tyreek Hill has made his frustrations with the team known, all leading to a recipe for disaster for the Dolphins. For the Jets, new head coach Aaron Glenn has the potential to turn the Jets around. They re-signed young stars Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner while bringing in free agent quarterback Justin Fields. The Jets could be a surprise this season, but with a competitive division, it'll be a tough road for them as well. So, my prediction for the 7 AFC teams to make the playoffs: the Bills, Texans, Ravens, Broncos, Chiefs, Bengals. The last one's tough, but I'm going to gamble and say the New England Patriots. The Chargers and Steelers will most likely be right on the cusp of the playoffs, but the Browns and Titans will be at the bottom of the conference. Heading over to the NFC, there will be some Super Bowl contenders this year. In the NFC West, things should be pretty exciting. With the addition of wide receiver Devontae Adams, the Los Angeles Rams offense should be fun again. Quarterback Matthew Stafford and receiver Puka Nacua are one of the best duos in the league, and I expect them to carry this team to another division title and a playoff appearance yet again. Stafford is approaching the tail end of his career though, so that'll be something to pay attention to moving forward. The San Francisco 49ers are coming off of a pretty tough year. Star running back Christian McCaffrey barely played last season after dealing with a multitude of different injuries. Deebo Samuel was traded to the Washington Commanders, Brandon Ayuk suffered a severe leg injury, and it's pretty unclear whether or not he will even play this season. However, despite all that, with Brock Purdy, Nick Bosa, head coach Kyle Shanahan, Christian McCaffrey, and George Kittle, the 49ers should be a lot more competitive than they were last season. The remaining 2 teams of this division have some question marks surrounding them as well. The Seattle Seahawks are coming off of a halfway decent season. They then traded star receiver DK Metcalf to the Steelers, but acquired former Rams star Cooper Kupp. They traded Geno Smith to the Raiders, but acquired Sam Darnold from the Vikings. So I expect more of the same from the Seahawks. Competitive and possibly a playoff caliber team, but facing a tough schedule. The Arizona Cardinals have an absurd amount of talent on their team. However, they can never seem to pull it together. With Kyler Murray, Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., and James Conner, they have a high caliber offense. I don't think this will be the year they put it all together, but I do believe their time is coming soon. In the NFC North, we have possibly the strongest division in the league, at least it was last year. Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions are coming off of their greatest season in franchise history. By all means, they should have won the Super Bowl last year. With all of their starters returning, plus players like Aiden Hutchinson returning from injury, I expect the Lions to pick up where they left off and continue their winning ways. However, there's one wrinkle to note. Ben Johnson, the Lions' offensive coordinator that led them to being the top scoring offense in the NFL, left Detroit this offseason to become head coach of the Chicago Bears, a division rival. Speaking of the Bears, they had a pretty rough season with rookie quarterback Caleb Williams. But with new coach Ben Johnson and Williams having some more experience under his belt, I expect them to take at least a step up from last season, but their playoff hopes will probably be put off for another year. The Green Bay Packers went 11-6 last year, but with how competitive their division was, finished third in the division and lost to the eventual champion Eagles in the wildcard round. With quarterback Jordan Love, running back Josh Jacobs, and a plethora of young and talented wide receivers, I believe the Packers will have another successful year and head to the playoffs yet again. Lastly, the Minnesota Vikings are a major mystery heading into this year. They went 14-3 last season, but still lost the division to the Lions. Quarterback Sam Darnold stepped in and led the Vikings offense to incredible success, with Justin Jefferson being a top 5 player in the NFL yet again. They would go on to lose to the Rams in the wildcard round. Sam Darnold left for the Seahawks, and J.J. McCarthy is finally ready to be the starter after missing his entire rookie season. While he will probably struggle early on, he's surrounded by some of the top talent in the NFL, so I think they'll do just okay this season. The NFC South should be clear-cut, but there might be a surprise. To start, making it simple, the New Orleans Saints will more than likely be the last-place team in the NFL. They simply do not have the talent on either side of the ball, and as of today, they currently don't have a starting quarterback. On top of this division, again, should be Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In his second season in Tampa, Mayfield continued to defy expectations, taking the Bucs back to the playoffs for the second straight year. To put it briefly, I expect that to be the case again this year. The Atlanta Falcons could be interesting this season. They narrowly missed the playoffs last year with Kirk Cousins under center, and they eventually benched him towards the end of the year. Cousins remains on the roster for now, and Michael Penix Jr. will be taking the reins. With Bijan Robinson, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts, the Falcons' offense should be fun to watch since they have some of the best talent in the NFL. Lastly, my sleeper pick of this season is the Carolina Panthers. While they would finish just 5-12 last year, they looked like a completely different team in the second half of the season. Quarterback Bryce Young was benched after just 2 weeks, but got the starting job back in Week 5. The Panthers still finished with a losing record, but Young looked like a brand new quarterback down the stretch, throwing for 15 touchdowns across 10 games after throwing for 0 in his first 2 games. I think they could shock some people this season. Lastly, we have the high-powered NFC East. The Philadelphia Eagles and Washington Commanders will be the top 2 teams in this division and will compete for the title at the end of the season. The Eagles are coming off of their blowout Super Bowl victory, and with Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, a stacked offensive line, and a dominant defense, the Eagles will be right back in the Super Bowl conversation again this season. With that said, though, the Commanders showed the world how good they are last season with rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels. They were 1 game away from a Super Bowl appearance, and with all of their weapons returning, assuming Terry McLaurin re-signs, they will be even stronger this year. Look for them to make another push at a Super Bowl. Bottoming out the division and probably the conference will be the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. The Giants, like the Browns, have 4 quarterbacks on their roster and have yet to name a starter. Rookie Jackson Dart, veterans Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, and Tommy DeVito all are competing for that number 1 spot. They have talented players like wide receiver Malik Neighbors and some young talent on the defense that could be effective. However, with this division, they just do not have what it takes to make it to the playoffs. And the Dallas Cowboys are stuck in perpetual turmoil. They'll win some games they shouldn't, get the public to believe they could be a Super Bowl contender for a brief moment, then spiral to miss the playoffs. Granted, they have a top receiver in the NFL in CeeDee Lamb and added another target for Dak Prescott and George Pickens, but I just don't see the Cowboys returning to their former glory until that team is completely rebuilt from the ground up. So, in the NFC, the teams I predict to make the playoffs are the Lions, Buccaneers, Eagles, Rams, Commanders, Packers, and, as a gamble, the Carolina Panthers. The 49ers, Seahawks, Falcons, and the Vikings will be on the verge of the playoffs, while the Saints and Giants will be towards the bottom of the conference. That was a ton of information and a ton of predictions, so we'll see how close I was once the season begins. Be sure to come right back next week for more news, updates, and highlights from all across the sports world. I'm Cole Young. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next time.